You are listening to Unified Through Chronic and Mental Illness with your hosts, Angie Roberts and Kimberly Murphy. Please be advised that some of the topics of this podcast can be triggering and sensitive in nature.
Triple-negative breast cancer makes up 10 to 15% of all breast cancers, according to the American Cancer Society.
Hey everyone, welcome to Unified. Today we have a really special guest. For those of you in the New England area, you may recognize her from WGIR-FM Rock 101, where you can hear her from 10 to 3, or on Rock 101 FM on iHeartRadio. She has also lent her talent to The Howard Stern Show, Tony Hawk's Demolition Radio, and The Jason Ellis Show, along with radio stations all over New England. Welcome to Unified, Shelby Taranto. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, guys.
So I imagine the first thing our listeners are wondering is what a talent like you is doing on a podcast focused on chronic illness. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here?
Absolutely. So last year on, February 8th, 2019, I was diagnosed with stage 3 triple negative breast cancer. And there's no cancer in my family, so they said that this was an environmental cancer. So it could have been from anything at all. Kind of not knowing is one of those things where, you kind of you just deal with it. So the prognosis for triple negative breast cancer is very poor. It's not a good breast cancer to get. It's actually the worst. And, that news was really difficult to take because we have 5 children, and who knows what the future is going to hold once you get news like that. So, that was a bit shocking when that all came down. My husband actually immediately after my diagnosis on February 9th began to research how to make cannabis oil and started researching the benefits of using cannabis oil as kind of a side treatment to the traditional treatment of chemo and radiation and surgery. So, he was doing that, and it was amazing. He was up at 5 o'clock the next morning, doing all the research, figuring it all out, ordering things that he needed to order, and finding out how to make this. So by the next day, I was on the cannabis oil.
Oh, wow. What a great guy.
Yeah, and he looked up the Rick Simpson oil and went through that. And what we discovered was that the Rick Simpson oil is using a solvent that's not food grade and can be toxic. So we wanted to find a way around that and to find a solvent that would be food grade, and we did find it, which was great. So my husband continues to make the cannabis oil for me, and I use that as a maintenance dose daily. I was taking 2 capsules in the morning and 2 capsules in the evening.
So I imagine you were doing both treatments at the same time. What were the doctors planning on doing?
Sure. So, we were doing all of this at the same time, and they were getting my treatment scheduled and figuring out what we were going to do. My oncologist is actually also a Harvard professor at Dana-Farber, which is the hospital that I had gone to. He's great. And what he does is that they take the case to a board of all, a bunch of different oncologists, and they all discuss the case and, talk about how they want to treat you. So what they had come up with is that I was going to do 4 dense dose, what they call Red Devil or AC chemo.
That sounds scary.
It's a little scary. Because when it's going in, it's actually red. So
Yeah,
I probably shouldn't show you that. So, and then my next dose, my next treatment would be Taxol. And that would be 4 dense doses. And what I mean by dense doses is that usually when you do these, you go a little bit longer, they're a little bit spaced out, and they don't give you such a powerful dose. But whereas my cancer was so aggressive, being triple negative, and my tumor was so large, they wanted to really just pound me with that chemo. And that's what they did. It was tough to get through. I'm not going to lie. It was tough, but I did work through the whole thing.
So how aggressive is this type of cancer? Did things ever seem bleak to you?
Yeah, well, there's there's different ways to look at it. Every person is different. Everybody's cancer is different. I could have triple negative. It could be super, super aggressive. Someone else could have triple negative where it's not super, super aggressive, and they're able to be treated a little bit less. But whereas mine was stage 3 already and in my lymph node, that was frightening because once it's in the lymph node, it can go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm sure that brings urgency to the situation. How did you feel though when you were going through chemotherapy?
Honestly, it's so difficult to describe because unless you've been on it, it's your body does things you don't know it's capable of doing, and it's frightening. Your body reacts in ways and feels ways you've never felt before. So you know you suddenly don't know your own body anymore, and that's frightening. It's very frightening because you sit there and say, oh my God, I didn't know that my body was capable of making me feel that horrible. So now you develop this mistrust with your own body, and so that's difficult to get through. So I had gone through the treatments, and as I said, I had started. So we'll back up a little bit. I had started the cannabis oil the day after I was diagnosed. 2.5 weeks later, I had gone for my second chemo. Now, before when I first saw the doctor, the oncologist, and they felt my tumor, it was 4 centimeters, I believe. Yeah, 4 centimeters, which is pretty big. It was actually large enough to see it jutting out the side of my breast at that point. It was growing real fast. And I had a mammogram 6 months earlier that did not catch anything, didn't see anything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's another really important point to bring up is that women with very dense breast tissue should be extra vigilant and catching this stuff. And I was one of those people where I would hop in the shower and really not do the self checks because I was always terrified that
Right.
I would find something.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, right. So it was actually my husband that found it. I didn't
Wow.
even know it was there.
I mean, I have to admit, I don't do self checks either. I think many of us probably
Do
don't.
them.
Don't.
We need to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely do them
Yes.
because had I been doing them, I would have entered into this in a much earlier stage. I probably would have, maybe even stage 1 if I had caught it, and been looking, but I wasn't. And, I really encourage everyone, men included, because men get breast cancer. Everybody should be checking. Every time you get in that shower, check everywhere. Check lymph nodes, even the ones in your collarbone, around the clavicle. Check them all. Check everything. So I was diagnosed on February 8th, started taking the oil on February 9th. 2.5 weeks later, I was to have my first chemo. So I had usually, but before you have chemo, you go in, you see your oncologist, and he does a physical exam to check the tumor and to check its size. And by that time, I had gone back in, the tumor was 2.5 centimeters.
Oh, wow.
So the cannabis oil had already been working and doing its job. And, my oncologist had even mentioned, he's like, wow, this is breaking down real fast. And then after I had my first chemo, it was almost completely gone. He couldn't really even feel it anymore. It was gone out of my lymph node too.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That just blows my mind. Did the doctor take credit for that? I mean, what was his opinion on the cannabis oil?
He had said straight out to us, this is not an FDA approved treatment, and I can't discuss this with you. But he said, whatever you're doing at home, wink, wink, continue to do that. So we've been doing that, and I'm on a maintenance dose. So I had gone through the whole chemo. I had a double mastectomy, July 15th. And at that time, when my pathology had come back, it was completely clean. There was nothing. There was nothing in my lymph nodes.
That's amazing.
Yep. So I was declared NED, which is no evidence of disease. And at that point, usually radiation follows up. And at that point, he had gone to the board again and said, well, this is the situation. She started with lymph node involvement at stage 3, and now she's completely clean. And in that time, they say, well, you may not need that radiation. Let's not radiate your body if we don't have to.
Let's not. That sounds
Yeah.
awesome. Let's not do it if we don't have
So
to.
they had me meet with the radiation oncologist, which was fine. But even she said the same thing. She's like, honestly, you could go either direction in this, but what I would tell you to do is to join this study. They're currently doing a research study where some women are randomly selected to have radiation, and then another group of women are randomly selected to not. I went into the not radiation group. So what they're going to do is this is going to go on for 5 years, and they're going to keep an eye on me, just to make sure that their idea, because what they've seen in past backward studies is that is the case. So to me, I thought to myself, I said, you have the chance to help other women right now. You have the chance to, help this study along and find out, because they really believe that they're over-treating women with radiation at this point. Women specifically that had a complete response to chemo. Only if you had a complete response to chemo, and I did. So I said, I can help some people, and that's what I wanted to do. So that I did join the study.
Which is so great. I did a study as well for lupus, and I think if we have an opportunity to help people, we absolutely should. I'm curious though, you said you had 5 children. Were you honest with them about your disease?
Immediately. Yep.
Really?
Yep, absolutely. We were completely upfront and honest. The thing that we found with children, I don't know, maybe it's just our children, but the way we feel about it is the more you try to keep from them, they know it, first of all, they can sense it, and the less they trust you, and the more they think something is very, very wrong. So we thought that it was best to sit with them, talk with them, let them say get out any feelings they might have, questions that they may have, and just be completely upfront and honest with them. And that was the right choice. That was definitely the right choice.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. How did they react?
They were it's funny because they were kind of upset, but they all said the same thing. Mom, you're going to be fine. You're going to make it.
That's
You're going to
great.
power through this.
Aw.
You're going to be
Yeah.
all right. We have no doubt. And that my husband was saying the same thing. And it was funny because part of me is just like, don't any of you feel bad?
Right? I
And
want a
they're like,
little bit of sympathy here, guys. Come on.
yeah, just, just a little, but they're like, no, we know you're going to be all right. We know you have so much fight in you, and you've been through so much. We know you're going to be okay.
Were you honest with them about the cannabis treatment as well?
Yes. We've always been very upfront with all of them. They all know, they knew from the beginning. And the way that we presented it is the way we think about it, because I'll be honest with you, we never had we're kind of lame ducks over here. We never, had any real experience with cannabis in any way. Even as teenagers, I never touched it. And I would often give my friends, a lot of garbage about using marijuana.
Really?
So, yeah, I was one of those. And then it saved my life, and obviously my thinking completely changed. And we were very honest with the kids about it. And the way we presented it to them is the way we think about it. This is medicine. This is not something to feel ashamed of. This is not something to be upset about. It's not something to hide. This is medicine. It's medicine. And again, like I know that it worked for me and my cancer. And I think that it can really, I've heard some great stories. If you now look on the American Cancer Society website, they're saying it now. It's right on the website that cannabis oil doesn't do anything, you smoke it, but you have to have the high potency cannabis oil breaks down tumors.
So it has to be high potency THC. So what is the dosage like?
So I took 2 capsules in the morning and 2 capsules at night. Now, if you have 1 capsule, that's going to floor you. So what happened, my husband actually wanted to test it before, obviously giving it to me. And he took 1 capsule and was face down in our bed for hours.
Oh my God.
It was honestly pretty hilarious. But I had worked my tolerance up so high that I could take 2 in the morning, go to work all day, come home, take 2 at night, and just go to bed. It got to the point where it just wasn't affecting me.
Which is great. That's really encouraging for people.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people definitely get scared the first time they try it, because they can either take too much or they can start out at too high a dose. You got to work your way up,
You got to be
and that
careful. Yeah.
you got to be careful. But once you get to that point where your tolerance is high enough, you don't even notice it.
So how did it affect your work life?
Yeah, I did work through the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
Mainly because I didn't want to leave my team empty-handed. I didn't want to just disappear on everybody. As you know, I'm the production director for 8 stations in Massachusetts, and I also do work for 2 stations in New Hampshire. I didn't want to leave everybody high and dry, so I took I had this big duffel bag, and it was full of all my medicines, all kinds of nausea stuff, all the things that I needed. And I would lug that into work with my, every day, with my little bald head and my scarf over it. And, you know,
Oh,
there were days that I did have to stay home because it was so painful. And I did take time off for surgery because that's a major surgery. And after the double mastectomy, but my body kind of went into a bit of a shock, where I couldn't eat. I couldn't eat at all. Food had become very foreign to me. I know it sounds very strange, but eating felt wrong in a way, and it was very bizarre. And the only way that I was able to eat and actually put weight on was the cannabis oil, because I was so frail and so underweight and just so sick, and just not able to eat. The cannabis oil was the only way I was able to put any weight on and get some strength back. So the cannabis oil works in so many different ways. It's just so beneficial to somebody going through this. And I want for someday for everyone to have access to this, for everyone to understand that they can make it themselves. It's very easy. And you don't have to wait for big pharma to come out with the next new treatment or painkiller. It's right here. You can grow it yourself.
you make it sound so
I
easy.
know, right?
Oh no, it was not. It was not easy. I'll tell you, there were a lot of tears. There were more. I woke up almost every morning crying because it's hard to. It's really hard to wrap your head around this. You always sit there and think to yourself, oh, that's not going to be me. That's not going to be me. And for me, there was none of it in my family. So for it to turn around and suddenly be me was a shock that took me probably a year to get through. And I had already been dealing with years of CPTSD. That definitely complicated things.
So, what was the cause of your CPTSD and how did it show itself in this situation?
So growing up, I had a parent. One of my parents has borderline personality disorder, along with a few other issues. So there was a lot of gaslighting. There was some traumatic events, but the reason it's CPTSD and not just PTSD is because it's a prolonged trauma. It's a trauma that's continual. It's not just one specific, incident. It's trauma that just continues. So after I had left my house, and got away from the parent, I got married to a man who turned out to be extremely abusive, and we had 3 children.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, it was bad. He started being abusive toward the kids, my oldest son specifically. He had started being quite abusive, both physically and psychologically to me. And it just got worse and worse and worse over time, to the point where there were multiple rapes. I ended up leaving after the second one. I took my kids, the 3 of them, and I packed them up with their backpacks, whatever I could throw in it, threw it in my car, and never turned back.
I'm so glad you did that.
Yeah, that was really difficult. So it's been a really long, hard road to get to the point where I am now.
Hmm.
But the CPTSD really affected a lot, because it was amplified. It was amplified 100% because of the cancer. Suddenly, I was afraid to, my anytime my husband would leave the house, I was terrified to be alone. I always thought, my body's so out of control, anything could happen. I don't trust it anymore. So that was really difficult. It was really difficult. I started having a lot of nightmares, but I've been working with my therapist constantly. And I've been with her for about 6 years now, and she's just fantastic. And we've gotten through so much together, and things have just really turned around lately. Things have just gotten so much better since I've gotten over that, because after treatment, I really kind of hit rock bottom. I was very, 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 very depressed, and I had, tremendous anxiety. And just continuing with therapy, and I had actually been placed on Effexor, which I'd never tried before.
Oh, uh-huh.
I've taken every SSRI in the book, and nothing ever did it. So it turns out that it wasn't serotonin I needed, it was norepinephrine this whole time.
Oh.
And the Effexor has just been amazing. It's been amazing. But the cannabis oil, I can't say enough about it. I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to talk to anyone into buying anything. I mean, it's a thing. You don't really even have to go to the dispensary to get it. You can just make it yourself at home, and I want for everyone to be able to have that option and to kill this stigma that's out there about cannabis.
So, are you able to tell us how you make it?
Yeah, so we bought what's called a magical butter machine, and you can go right on that website and purchase one. It was about $150, and it was the best investment we ever made because you pretty much set it and forget it. You put your flour in, you put your solvent in, and you let it go for about 8 hours. And then my husband wakes up in the morning and he takes it out. He strains it completely. And then he puts it in a small saucepan on the stove and boils it down. Because the solvent that we are using is it's 190 proof Everclear.
Ah.
So what you need
Interesting.
to so what you have to do then is you need to put it on the stovetop and boil it down. So you're boiling out all the alcohol content. And then what you have left is this very high potency oil, very high potent. And that's the trick with triple negative, by the way. You have to have very, very high THC content.
What exactly does triple negative mean? What is that for people who don't know?
So triple negative is when your hormones don't feed the cancer. They don't know what fed my cancer. Usually with breast cancer, you're hormone positive. Only 15% of breast cancer is triple negative. A lot of the hormone treatments, they won't work for me. A lot of the
Right.
time they put you on something called tamoxifen, which is an inhibitor. And what it does is it shuts those channels off from the cancer so that it can't feed it anymore with the hormones. Unfortunately, mine was not hormone driven. They have no idea what drove it.
So, from the time that you began taking the cannabis treatments that your husband created, how long did it take for you to go from that horrible diagnosis to remission?
So that was from, I will say February 9th, 2019 to July 15th.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and this is why I just really want to get the word out, that this is just such a needed medicine. And it should be available to everyone.
And it's just so great that you guys are patenting this process of how you make it because, people really do deserve to know how they can make it for themselves. And as little as our fan base is right now, hopefully it will grow and we can get the word out and help you get the word out because this is just absolutely amazing.
I mean, it's really, really important that people understand that, how necessary this is and that it is working. And we are working on we're having the oil tested by a lab. We've spoken to the man that is the head of the lab, and what his understanding is that through our process, the way we do it, we have somehow accidentally found the correct terpenes and cannabinoids to unlock to break down the tumors.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do, and we're in the midst of it now, is to patent the process, not the oil itself, but the process, so that big pharma can't get their hands on it, and so that everyone can just do this for themselves.
And they, of course, are going to try to shut that down like they do with everything that's beneficial.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Of course. But we're gonna, we're still trying. I mean, we feel that strongly about it, that it can really help people. And it's not a money thing. We don't want any money. We just want to be able for you to know how to do this yourself.
I think that's wonderful that you guys don't want any money from it, that you
No.
literally just want to help other women or other men, whoever, what.
Yeah, a lot of the time we give it out for free. Yeah, we've helped people and just, given it to them.
If somebody had further questions on how to actually make this type of oil.
Yeah, sure. They can shoot me an email. They can just email me at Shelby@rock101fm.com.
So, Shelby, did you have any last words of advice for our listeners?
You got to get your mind right. Your mind has a lot to do with it. Stress, things like that, that can bring cancer on. So you've got to really work hard once treatment is finished to really get your mind right. And that's super, super important. That's the other thing. I think that everybody that goes through this, if you don't have a therapist already, get one and see them and talk to them constantly, regularly, a couple times a week if you have to. Getting your mind around this and getting your mind right is just so important to your recovery.
Well, there's a mind, body, and spirit connection that's undeniable.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing. I don't know if you want this information, but I'm an atheist. And I know a lot of women go there. They really, pull from their faith to get through this. But my faith is in medical science and in my doctors. So I went about it kind of in a different way. But it works for, whatever works for you. Just pull from that. If that gives you strength, you pull from that, no matter what it is. Whatever you got to do.
So it was really inspiring to have Shelby on this episode. She's such a strong and inspiring person.
I totally agree. I think she's like one of those chronic illness warriors that everybody talks about on social media. Like, she is the poster woman, and for her husband to be like creating this concoction like the next morning, like the next day she was on it. Like,
it's amazing.
Right? What a power couple they are. And I really think that was the reason that she actually got through this the way that she did.
Hashtag couple goals.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know about you, but I was kind of starstruck. So
you're the rocker chick than I am. So
yes, I am big time. So I mean, when I found out that Shelby would do this, I was a little starstruck. I'm gonna admit it to everybody right now. So yeah, I was not myself, but I was just so amazed by her. She just really is an amazing woman.
The story was so amazing. There wasn't much to add to it for us.
Exactly.
And how cute were the dogs?
Oh, right, the dogs. I know.
How cute were they?
Didn't she say like they have to do a cameo in everything she does? Like, this is like normal for her?
Yes,
oh my
and
God.
everything, even in her ads.
How funny is that? They were so cute, though.
I
have dogs too, so I totally get it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So what is the mantra for this week, Angie?
Fate whispers to the warrior, you cannot withstand the storm. The warrior whispers back, I am the storm.
That is so perfect. I love it. So I really hope everybody enjoyed this episode, and I know I did. And, just remember that you're not alone and we are stronger together, and we'll see you next time.
Have a great day, guys.
Unified through chronic and mental illness can be found at anchor.fm/unified. There you can find all social media links as well as other ways to listen.